What's up, you guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we're doing something super different to what I usually do. If you're new here, my name is Ditana Rostormane. I'm a mom, a gym bunny, a law student, used to be a chef, changing careers, a wife, yada 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 yada. So we're gonna be doing something very different. I have never spoken about this on YouTube in long form content, and we're going to be speaking about my two hobbies, knitting and crocheting. In this video I'm not going to be giving you guys any tips, although I'll answer a few questions that were asked on my Instagram. But I want to tell you just like how I started, why I started, and what my crafting plans are for the year 2025. Okay, so how I started, I actually started knitting first, and I picked up knitting because I needed a hobby. If you've watched a lot of my videos, you will know that I suffered, I think I can use past tense now, from depression. Postpartum depression turned into regular depression, turned into situational depression, the whole shebang. So anyways, I was then referred to my psychiatrist, whom I just remembered I need to give a phone call. And the psychiatrist was like, okay, you need hobbies, you need to fill your cup with things that are just for you, for your enjoyment, to give you that dopamine hit, blah blah blah, right? And initially I picked up a hobby, and the hobby was playing the violin. If you don't know, I played the piano through basically from the age of 11-12 until I finished matric at 18. And unfortunately I did not continue with playing the piano, because then I moved to Johannesburg. My piano wasn't, you know, I couldn't move my piano with me because I live in an apartment, blah blah blah. But I can still read music. I do use Kuto's keyboard, which is upstairs, sometimes to practice. We even started a music club on my campus, we being Danielle and I. And in fact, Danielle is the one that asked for this type of content, the crafting content, etc etc. So then I decided, you know what, I want to change my career. I want to become a lawyer. I want to be an attorney, blah blah blah. So because my classes are Monday to Friday and it's contact, it's not at distance, I had to give away or give back my violin. I was renting a violin before I decided to purchase one. Before deciding to purchase one, I never did purchase one. I was renting a violin. I sent it back to the music store. I stopped my lessons because I wouldn't be able to make it across town to my violin lesson, study and get the distinctions that I'm getting, practice violin and practice for exams, because my violin teacher wanted me to start with grade 2 exams, because grade 1 is quite simple for someone who can read music. I mean, I did piano until grade 8 level. And off topic, but I do see myself retiring as a piano teacher, so I might pick it back up and start just a little something for little kids and do my teaching diploma later on in life. Yes, I have a lot of interests. I asked my therapist if I have ADHD. She said I have traits, but she wouldn't say that I have ADHD. So in your face in your face, ADHD. If you see me looking this way, it's because my laptop is here. I'm going to be looking at it to talk about some of the patterns that I have planned for the year, that I want to do for the year. And also I'll be answering some of the questions on my phone. So anyways, I put the violin away, packed it away, and then now I didn't have a hobby anymore. So then I decided, a friend of mine actually said, why don't you try like yarn art? And she said, so she crochets a lot. I don't think she knits. And so I picked up 2 needles, 2 straight needles. I knit a scarf, which actually isn't in this pile. Anyways, I knit a scarf, and then I tried my hand at crochet, and now I'm better at crocheting than I am at knitting. So that's how I got started, and I'm going to tell you how you can also get started. If you want to get started with crocheting, you're going to need one of these. These are called crochet hooks. I've got many of them, as you can see, and these aren't all of them. I don't know where the rest are, but they're somewhere. If you want to get started on knitting, you're going to need knitting needles. These are called knitting needles, or circular knitting needles. I'm going to do a separate video on my tips and tricks about crocheting and knitting, and I'll discuss with you guys what kind of yarn to use, what kind of needles to use, for example the circular ones or the straight ones, what kind of hooks to use, because I have a very specific taste when it comes to the brand of hooks, all of that jazz. So I'll do a separate video about that. And then yeah, so that's how you can get started. You decide, do you want to learn how to crochet? Do you want to learn how to knit? Crocheting and knitting looks very different. They're similar but different. Similar in that they both use yarn, different in that the finished product looks different. To be honest, I prefer the way that if I'm making a garment to wear, I prefer knitted garments. If I'm making a toy, I prefer crochet toys. Yes, there are crochet toys. And then I'd say get a pattern, watch a YouTube video. I use many free patterns. There are tons on the internet, many free patterns on the internet. There are also patterns that are for purchase. I have purchased a few myself. I think I've purchased 3. Yes, I've purchased 3, and I've only ever used the one. But we'll talk about using the other 2 in the part where I tell you what my plans are for knitting and crocheting. Yeah, start with that. Start with the free patterns. Watch lots of YouTube videos. Hopefully some of the YouTube videos that you will be watching that gives you the tips and the tutorials will come from me, because somebody did ask that on my Instagram. And yeah, let's get into my plans for my knitting and crocheting for 2020. Okay, before I get started on knitting and what my plans are for knitting and crocheting for this year, let's talk about this pile that's behind me. This pile is all the things that I have made. Not all, because some of them I have sold, you know, so they are with the people who bought them. And yes, I do, I am open for commission work. You can message me if you want something specific. Otherwise, you can find my Etsy link in the description box, where there are some things you can order, and then there are a few ready to ship items. I will show you some of the ready to ship items that I've got in this pile. So let's start with that scarf that I spoke about. So this is the scarf. It's literally on the edge, stockinette stitch. Don't know if you can see that. Yeah, stockinette stitch. I mean, sorry, garter stitch on the edge, and then in the middle, stockinette stitch. We'll talk about the different stitches in another video. And as you can see, it's not very like intricate. It's literally just, I wear it a lot in the winter, because I believe that if you're going to make something for yourself, make sure that it's something that you will actually use and not just chill in the cupboard. And if it does end up being something that hangs out in the cupboard, the nice thing about this is that you can frog it or undo it, and then use that same yarn to make something else that you can make use of. So that's a knitted item. The scarf is knitted. That's something I made for myself. And then I'll show you something that I crocheted myself for myself. Is this bra. I love this bra. I often wear it as is, just like this. It's a halter neck bra, and as a crop top, and then I'll wear like a kimono or like a cover up. And I made this because I wanted to use some of the yarn that was in my stash, and this was also actually used a YouTube tutorial to make this. This is a jersey that I knit for Zion. This was the first jersey that I ever knit, and I made it last year. So I wanted to start this tradition of every year for the winter making him a knitted item. And that was last year's item. Obviously it still fits him this year, so he can wear it. I do have something planned to knit for him for this year. He loves it. Right now it's quite dirty, so I need to wash it. I might wash it just after shooting this video and let it just dry flat. I used a yarn that is a South African yarn. The brand is called African Expression, and as you can see, stripe work, stockinette stitch, raglan. Oh, guys, it was so difficult. I'm not even joking. I really find knitting to be quite difficult, but after I finished it, I felt so proud of myself. So that's something I made for Zion. This jersey is a jersey that I made for myself. It's a cardigan. It's a crochet cardigan. I made it for myself. So with regards to this tradition that I have for Zion, where I make him something for the winter every year, I decided I want to make myself something also every year. So this was last year's creation. I've only been knitting for a year, let's be honest. I mean crocheting for a year and knitting for a year. And then this cardigan is one that I made for my mother. She will receive it when she comes back. It's got cute little pockets, right? Cute little pockets. And I knit a bag, you guys. I knit this bag. This bag is super nice. Also a free pattern online. I knit this bag. Sometimes I use it when I go to church. It's a knitted one. Thing about bags, my thing about bags is that I don't have a sewing machine, right? So this is not lined, as you can see. So, you know, it's just a tote bag like this. And I don't know how to line the bag. Maybe that can be something to add on to learning what to do, or whatever, you know, increasing my skill in terms of the crafting. I don't have a sewing machine, but also I can sew with my hands, right? But I'm scared it's gonna look ugly. Another thing I crocheted for myself, you guys saw this in a vlog, is this cover up. Also a free pattern. I actually watched a YouTube video for this cover up. I used it a lot this summer. And then my biggest crochet item, you guys. No, before I get on to that, let me show you guys my one. Okay, this is a blanket that I crocheted myself for myself, and the pattern was also free. I told you I use a lot of free patterns. The pattern was free. And then, because it's like a lapkin, I think that's what people call it, a lap blanket that I often use in the winter when I'm studying at night. I just put it over my knees or my lap like a real granny. Then my sister was like, oh, I also want one. So if you follow me on Instagram, you'll know that this took me so long. It took me the whole year, and every year I make one blanket, and this was the blanket. Took me more than a year. So anyways, I made a huge version of my lapkin. Mine, this pink one, has 42 squares. This one has 120 something squares. So these were all individual granny squares. And yeah, that's the gift from my sister. She'll also pick that up when she comes. Next, for Zion, I made him this beanie last year, but this is actually one that's available in the store, in the Etsy store, which is linked in the description box. I made a similar one for him in a gray color, and I think on the Etsy store there's this color, just like an emerald. Then there's a golden mustardy color, and then I think there's also a gray one, another gray one that's for sale. And then also in the Etsy store, this pink ruffle hat that the girlies are loving at the moment. There's this pink one, and then there's like a beige one available in the store, both crocheted. This I love so much because it actually looks knitted, but it's crocheted. I crocheted that. And then currently I have got one whip. A whip is a work in progress that is not finished, and it is this It's made out of, I think, 13 of these. It's a tote bag also. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep that for myself or if I'm gonna put it on the Etsy store. I'm gonna continue with that tonight. I'm almost done with it, so I'll put that on the store, link it in the store once I'm done. Now, my plans for my crafting things this year. So you guys know I'm a law student, right? And how I get through crocheting, because I'm looking at all of this, I'm like, girl, where do you find the time to do all of this? Anyways, how I get through all of these things, making all of these things, is that I have a little project bag. It's a little Marks and Spencer shopping bag. And I pack my whips in there, my works in progress in there, take it to campus with me. Sometimes if I'm in a lecture that is a little bit easier, I want to say, I might crochet. Like, I know I did this for specific offenses. While she's talking, I'd crochet. She did not take offense because I was also still interacting with the class. So if you can't do that, don't do that. And then in the 10-minute break in between lectures, I'd also crochet. Like for example, this cover up, I want to, there's a matching top, so I want to make that matching top. I had started it, but I don't think I can call it a whip because it literally was like one row, and I'm probably gonna frog it and continue to do something else or start it again. So I do that, and then yeah, this year my plan for my crocheting and knitting hobby is I really would love to improve my knitting. As you've seen in this pile over here, a lot of the items are crocheted, and like I said, I started learning knitting, then I like left it because it's so difficult and it takes much longer than crocheting does. But I've gotten to the point where my crocheting is much better than my knitting, and that's fine, whatever, you know. But I would love to improve on my knitting because there's so many beautiful color work sweaters, cardigans that I see, and I'd love to do them. One of them being one of the patterns that I bought, and a whole lot of other things like knitted dresses and stuff. I'd love to knit myself a dress, wear it in the winter with some cute bootsies, you know. So that's the aim. However, for the Etsy store, because crocheting takes a shorter amount of time, I think I will still stock the store with mostly crocheted items, because if I were to stock it with knitted items, I'm not going to be selling anything because it would be priced higher because knitting takes so long, right? So yeah, but projects that I'm keen to do this year, I'm just opening my Ravelry. There's a page on Instagram called Knitting for Olive. The items there are to die for, the patterns there are to die for. But I'm going to be knitting the Hans sweater from Knitting for Olive. That is going to be my project for Zion, which means it's like Feb now. Basically, it's like February now, almost. And if I want it to be ready for him by July, I need to get the yarn for it, get started on it like very soon. That'll be for Zion. And then I also, you know, with regards to learning color work, the project that I had in mind is the, what is it called? Hold on, let me open the pattern. The Get a Drip vest. So I got this pattern, I started it, I unraveled it, I frogged it, I started again, I unraveled it, I frogged it. So I would love to do that for myself. I think that might be something for me to wear in the winter. It's a vest, so obviously I'd wear something long underneath it. So that'd be the Get a Drip sweater. That's the one that I bought. Then there's also the Wave sweater by Spectacle Strick. I know strick means knit in, I think, Swedish or something. Please correct me, I don't know. That sweater is so beautiful. Oh my word, it's so stunning. And I just want to know how to make it. Then lastly, I think I would love to do the Flower Power Pullover by Lindsay Deegan. Hopefully I'm saying her name right, because the Flower Power Pullover and the Get a Drip vest, the one that I showed you earlier, they use a skill or a technique called intarsia, and I feel like the Flower Power would be an easier intarsia knit than the Get a Drip vest, but I might be wrong. And yeah, that's it. That's me and my knitting and crocheting. Oh no, I lied, that's not it, because there were questions on my Instagram. Okay, so the first one says, how much is a starter kit? Personally, I don't sell starter kits. I don't sell kits, but this is not gonna be, I mean, Loiso, that's not a bad idea. I'm not saying that I'm gonna sell starter kits this year, but I'm saying that's not a bad business idea. Yeah, so I'll keep that in mind. There are people who do sell kits. If you go to Arthur Bales in Linden, that's where I get the beautiful yarn that I use, the more expensive one. They do sell kits. A lot of other designers online sell kits. However, most of the designers that I follow are abroad, so I don't know, maybe you just have to go to a physical store. Next question says, what are some of the basic things someone who's a beginner can knit? And I love your content a lot. Thank you for that compliment. The basic things that you can start with if you're learning to knit: a scarf. I'm gonna say a scarf. Actually, I'm even gonna say a pullover. Learn to knit a pullover. And I'm talking to my past self here. If I'd started with a pullover that's knit in the round and not in panels like Zion's one, I think my knitting skills might have been better. But a scarf, a pullover, a blanket. Okay, a blanket is like a long-term project. So oh, I didn't show you guys the blanket I knit for Zion. Oh my gosh, just hold on, hold that thought. A blanket is a long-term project. So like I said, I will knit or crochet one blanket every year. The blanket that I did for 2024 is that big daisy one for my sister. Then I made myself the smaller daisy blanket. Then I knit Zion a blanket. I'll show it to you shortly. Then next question says, would you consider doing tutorials on your craft for people that are interested? I might do a few tutorials, like very basic things, and I say that because I haven't learned how to make my own patterns for crocheting and for knitting. So it would be nice if I could learn that and then like make my own things and show you how I did it. Next question, could you please cover tutorials if you can? My daughter would love to learn it. Yeah, same as the previous one. And then this person says, where do you get your wools? I want to start. So I'm not sure where that person is. I am based in Johannesburg, but there is a store in Centurion called the Wool Warehouse. You can order online. So if you're not based in Gauteng, you can order online, they'll ship to you. Or if you are based around there, you can go to the store yourself. Then there's Arthur Bales, which I mentioned earlier. They are based in Linden in Johannesburg as well. Arthur Bales also has an online store, but going to the store itself is just such an experience for me because they have so many amazing wools and different types of yarn, cashmere, mohair, kid silk, like so many. And a lot of the brands, that the British brands that I like that are very expensive, they stock them. And then there's also, if you go to the Prison Break market in, can I call that Kyalami? I don't know, that I think I'm gonna call it Kyalami, or Fourways, in between. There is a little shop. They also stock a few yarn items. That's where I first started to buy my yarn. Otherwise, you can always import it, but you're gonna pay those custom fees. I have thought about it many times, but I haven't quite yet bought yarn that is coming from overseas and shipped it to my home. But because I want to get more into knitting, and I feel like knitted items, especially sweaters and stuff, you deserve to be in a cute little cashmere sweater where everybody's gonna be like, oh, that's so beautiful, where'd you get it? And you're gonna say, I made it, and they're gonna be like so yeah, before I finish, let me get you that blanket that I knit for Zai. This is the blanket. It's massive, you guys, but it was such a fun project to make. So it was literally, I think this is how I learned to knit garter stitch, because it's all just garter stitch, garter stitch, garter stitch, and it was knit in these strips. So I do one strip, so like this gray and emerald and gray and emerald, then you'd attach the next one, so like the green and the mustard, and it's huge, 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 and very warm. Love it, love it, love it, love it. But I told myself I'm never knitting a blanket again. If I'm making a blanket, it's going to be crocheted. I had this bright idea to crochet or knit a temperature blanket, but I'm not doing that this year. I'm not doing that, because I'm gonna forget what the temperature was every day, and then have a backlog of 7 days of temperatures. Anyways, I hope this was useful. I hope you guys are inspired and you start some crocheting or knitting. I hope I learned to make patterns so that I can teach you guys. And if you make anything, please DM me. Somebody DM'd me the cutest flowers. They were so beautiful and bright. DM me with your pictures or tag me in the stories. It's at @DSitoromane on Instagram as well, just like on here. So happy crocheting and happy knitting. Bye.